In the quiet suburbs of America, during the mid-1990s, a small-town cheerleading squad vanished without a trace. It was 1995. The girls were young, full of energy, and celebrated by their community. After performing at a local high school game, they were never seen again. For 2 decades, the disappearance of the cheerleaders baffled families, police, and investigators. There was no evidence, no suspects, and no answers. Only haunting questions left behind. Then, 20 years later, in 2015, a lone hiker stumbled upon something buried deep in the hills, a rusted suitcase, filled with the cheerleaders' uniforms. The discovery reignited a mystery long thought to be unsolvable. This is the story of the vanished cheerleaders. A story of innocence, tragedy, and an unsolved mystery that continues to cast its shadow to this day. The cheerleading team was the pride of their small town. 6 girls, bright smiles, red uniforms, and an energy that lifted the spirit of every game. They weren't just teammates, they were sisters. They practiced together, laughed together, and shared dreams of the future. They were adored by classmates and admired by younger children who wanted to be just like them. But in 1995, their world, and the world of their town, would change forever. On the night of their final show, the girls posed for one last picture together. Their bows sat neatly in their hair, their hands on their hips, and their smiles radiated confidence. It would become the last photo ever taken of them alive. It was a Friday evening. The high school gymnasium was buzzing with excitement. Families filled the bleachers, the band played loudly, and the cheerleaders prepared backstage for their routine. When the time came, they performed flawlessly. Every jump, every flip, every cheer was perfectly synchronized. The crowd erupted in applause. It was a night of triumph, a performance that would be remembered, though not for the reasons anyone expected. By 9:30 p.m., the performance was over. The girls collected their belongings, still laughing and talking about their plans for the night. They told friends they were heading to a sleepover. But they never made it there. Witnesses recalled seeing the group walking toward the parking lot, their uniforms still on, their pom-poms in hand. But no one saw them leave. No one saw them get into a car. And no one saw them again. The following morning, parents expected to find their daughters at the sleepover. But when they arrived, the house was empty. The beds were untouched. The girls had never arrived. Calls were made, panic spread, and soon police were contacted. Flyers were printed. The story hit the local news within hours. But the more investigators searched, the stranger the case became. There was no crime scene. No evidence of a struggle. No broken glass, no abandoned bags. The cheerleaders had simply disappeared. Detectives launched a full-scale search. They combed the school grounds, the parking lot, the nearby woods. Cadaver dogs were brought in, helicopters hovered above, and volunteers searched the surrounding area. Theories began to swirl almost immediately. Some believed the girls had been abducted by a stranger. Others thought they might have run away. And some suspected that someone close to them, perhaps even someone in the community, was responsible. Investigators questioned teachers, coaches, classmates, and even parents. But no solid leads emerged. Every path led to a dead end. Within weeks, the investigation slowed. Within months, the case went cold. And by the end of 1996, the disappearance of the cheerleaders became just another unsolved mystery. The years that followed were heavy with silence. The town never recovered. Families lived with quiet grief. Bedrooms were left untouched, photographs remained on walls, and birthdays passed without celebration. The high school made the painful decision to shut down its cheer program altogether. What had once been a symbol of pride became a painful reminder of loss. Rumors swirled in the community. Some believed the girls had been taken far from town. Others whispered of dark rituals, secret gatherings, and sinister forces. But with no evidence, these were nothing more than theories. 2 decades passed. And the case was all but forgotten. Until a hiker stumbled upon something that would change everything. In the summer of 2015, a lone hiker wandered off the beaten path near the outskirts of town. As the sun dipped low and shadows grew long, he noticed something odd among the rocks. Half buried in the dirt was a rusted suitcase. Its corners were bent, its leather worn and cracked, its handle broken. At first, he assumed it was trash, discarded years ago. But curiosity drew him closer. When he pulled it free and pried it open, he froze. Inside were torn, faded cheerleading uniforms. Red fabric, aged but unmistakable. Across the chest of each uniform, the word still read clear, cheer. The same uniforms the girls had worn the night they disappeared. Police were immediately called to the scene. The area was sealed off, and forensic teams examined the suitcase carefully. The soil was tested. Fibers were collected. Every inch was inspected. But there were no fingerprints, no usable DNA, no sign of who had placed it there. The discovery was chilling, but it raised more questions than it answered. Had someone hidden the suitcase deliberately, hoping it would never be found? Or had it been buried recently, as some kind of cruel message? And most haunting of all, if the uniforms were here, where were the girls? The case was reopened. Old files were dusted off, interviews were revisited, families were questioned once again. But just as quickly as hope had reignited, it began to fade. Leads fizzled. Witnesses had long forgotten details. Technology had advanced, but without DNA or evidence, there was little to analyze. The suitcase gave the appearance of progress. But in truth, it deepened the mystery. Over the years, countless theories emerged. The first was the stranger theory, that a drifter, someone passing through town, lured the girls away. Perhaps he kept the uniforms as trophies, discarding them years later when the guilt became unbearable. The second was the local theory, that someone within the community was responsible. Someone who knew the girls, who had access to them, and who had hidden evidence close by to taunt investigators. Then there was the ritual theory, fueled by rumors of strange gatherings and whispers of cult activity in the area. Some believed the girls had been taken for something far darker than anyone could admit. And finally, the runaway theory, the idea that the girls had staged their disappearance. But if that were true, why would their uniforms be found buried in a suitcase? Each theory had flaws. Each explanation left more questions than answers. Today, the town remembers the cheerleaders not only as victims of a mystery, but as symbols of innocence lost. Their photo still hangs in the high school hallway. Flowers are laid each year at the site where the suitcase was found. The mystery remains unsolved. The girls were never found. And though decades have passed, their story continues to haunt those who remember. Because sometimes, the past refuses to stay buried. This is the story of the vanished cheerleaders. A story that began with laughter and applause, and ended with silence and shadows. 20 years of silence. One shocking discovery. And a mystery that refuses to fade. Perhaps one day, the truth will surface. Perhaps one day, the families will have closure. Until then, the smiles of 6 young girls, frozen in time, continue to haunt us all.